Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, I love them. Welcome back to another episode of Cameron Reads Comics. On today's episode, I am going to be talking about One Star Squadron, issue number 1. Let's just get into it. So, first and foremost, I want to talk about the two writers, which are really the key components into why I picked up this book. It's writer-artist, co-creators of this title, or you know what I'm saying. First, I want to talk about Mark Russell. Mark Russell is one of these shining stars now, I think, for either publisher that he's working with, bringing so much creativity and amazing content to the comic book scene right now. Some of the titles that he's worked on were Exit Stage Left, The Snagglepuss Chronicles, The Flintstones, Fantastic Four, Life Story currently being published, which I'm reading and I'm loving. I just really want to bring all this attention to him and their work together because they are just, he specifically is bringing this new dimension to comic books where it's like larger than life characters and just grounding them in human turmoil, conflict. And it's like, we see a lot of writers attempt it, but just these parallels that he's bringing to these characters is mind-blowing to me. And he's quickly becoming this writer that when his name's on a book, I'm going to pick it up. I don't know how much, I don't know if I want to try his indies because what he's doing with, pre-existing characters and the paradigms that he's bringing is just blowing my mind. So on top of that, we have all-star artist Steve Lieber, who is one of my... Again, I think this is just a book I needed to pick up because of these two collaborators that I've kind of found out about within the last couple years. Steve Lieber, who did art on Superior Foes of Spider-Man. He did a bunch of indie books. He even did some Gotham Central and Road to Perdition, apparently. He did, most recently that I brought him to my attention was... Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, which was, again, a shining star in the Brian Michael Bendis Superman run. So his art and like these two working together, number one, it seems like a very good fit. But then also for my money was like, oh man, I just need to get my hands on this book. I was like, so let's get into the story. For me, I think I am the primary audience for a book like this. Obviously, if I haven't already said that, because I only talked about the creators, which is, my first step into the book. What I'm loving about it is it's a bunch of B and C list characters, because my philosophy with comics is if we can get B and C list characters to have like a pedestal or like get a writer that really cares about them, and not that writers who take on characters don't care about them, but if you just literally just dig into those characters and bring out new aspects of them that maybe kind of make the character who they are, I think you have the potential for a really great story to happen. And with these collaborators, I know that we're going to get that. And so they're taking DC's... There's characters in this book that I haven't even heard of, but I think the two main characters that I guess in this issue, the four main characters that I think I got the most taste for were Red Tornado, Power Girl, Gangbuster, and Minuteman. I guess the point I was trying to make earlier is if you get a B or C list character and you really invest in them, like DC financially just pours money into them, you are going to get an awesome title. And I think we've seen that with Mark Russell, because if you like Exit Stage Left, The Snagglepuss Chronicles is one of, hands down, I would argue, and this is my offense to people, I would argue it is a Watchmen level comic book. That book befuddled me, had me beside myself. And so when we get, and even this book in the first issue befuddled me. I was beside myself. I didn't think I could get a curveball from these guys, and they gave me a curveball. The organization, I think it's called the All-Star Squadron, or it's in this story, it's called Heroes for You. It's kind of the philosophy of the book is what happens if we combined capitalism and heroism, because not everyone can be Bruce Wayne if you're a superhero. They work day jobs, so they're doing superheroes that do cameos at mall appearances, guest signings, just a bunch of stuff that like we wouldn't necessarily combine with traditional superheroism. it's a bunch of B-list and C-list characters that need to do that kind of stuff. We have Red Tornado, who's kind of beside himself. I always thought, he was a member of Brad Meltzer's Justice League. Like, Red Tornado's made multiple appearances in all types of DC mediums and media. So for him to be a part of this team is interesting. It's good to see him as a large part, as a flagship character in a book like this. We also have Power Girl, who again has made multiple appearances across different DC content. So to see her in a book like this was kind of surprising, but I guess kind of necessary. And it shows them as leaders and trying to find themselves in this network organization of superheroes that is just they're trying to make a living doing their heroism, which makes sense. Then we meet the other character. They're kind of like almost like telemarketers. They didn't make it super clear what they do, but they are working. They're working as heroes. They bring in a character who looks like has PTSD and is mentally unstable, and that is Gangbuster. And I don't know how or why, but I guess I've been so deep in the trenches so long. I remember Gangbuster. I thought Gangbuster, I believe, was like a 90s era hero. He was from Metropolis. I remember him from like 1990s, like Death of Superman era Superman. I could be totally wrong or misremembering or whatever. Like, I think I've read like one story where he's in, and if he's in that many stories. But we meet this character and he's struggling with, having been a relevant superhero and, fighting crime to kind of not being able to hold himself together. And he's having mental breakdowns, and he kind of comes to the door of these people, of this super team, as a stray, and Red Tornado takes it upon himself to kind of try and find where this guy's home is. And that's really about as much as we had in this issue. And it was compelling because it's like you really just see the stakes. Like, you don't need to have Metallo come in and put a hole in the building for there to be stakes in a book. And I think that's what Mark Russell does best. And so the responsibility and what it means to be a hero, I think, is kind of a subtle theme within this book. And we kind of see that through the character of Red Tornado, which I love because also he is not even human. He is an android created by a villain. But anyways, look it up. Red Tornado is interesting. So let's go into the art of this book. Steve Lieber is an amazing, amazing artist who I think is actually incredibly underrated. I loved his Jimmy Olsen book. I think he draws this very almost like Kurt Swan inspired style. And maybe that was just the Jimmy Olsen book, but it's a very minimal line work, two-dimensional. I'd put him in the same category as like Chris Somney, Darwin Cook, just that kind of school of art where it's even like David Aja-esque. All the lines that are there are the exact ones that need to be there, no more, no less. And the way that he's able to put together pages and panels blows my mind. I thought the page layouts in this book were amazing. And I don't say that as someone who like really understands the concepts of page layouts, but as someone who, when I notice the way a page is laid out and I really like it, I think that's a great page layout. Because if you can show that skill to me, in a way where I was like, wow, I like this, I don't know why I like this, that's awesome. This book did that successfully. So again, it's wonderful. So now if we're going to the rating, I think you guys know what my rating is going to be. Because it's a first issue, I'm not rating it as a whole. I'm rating it as, am I picking up the second issue? The answer is absolutely. And I'm going to even do one more than that. I am not just picking up the second issue. I am subscribing. It is I believe it's a 6-issue series. Yes, yeah, 6-issue limited series. I don't want to wait. I want to get my hands on this book. It looks so freaking good. So I'm Cameron. I don't just read comics. I love them. Make sure to clobber those like and subscribe buttons, and maybe check out my podcast. We definitely did an episode on Exit Stage Left, the Snagglepuss Chronicles, and it was awesome. So see you next time.